Hi everybody, welcome back to the Claremont Classic Garage. Today we're going to make a video either about fixing this truck, or hopefully, if it goes well and it's an easy fix, we'll be making a video about fixing a few things. But we got to start with this truck. So this morning I was out in it. I stopped in to get some fuel, and when I was finished fueling it up, it started right back up like it always does. I went out onto the road, and as soon as I went out onto the road, it just quit. Like somebody, like total electrical failure. Like somebody at that instant guillotined all the battery cables. It just was like it had no electrical system in it whatsoever. It turned into a Flintstone car, and it quit. So I said, that's interesting. Hang on, we gotta let this bike go by. Loud pipes save lives. That guy should live forever. So I sat there for a second. I hit the four-way flashers, but of course nothing happened. Then all of a sudden the four-way flashers started flashing. So I said, oh, we got power again. So I hit the key. It started right up. I'm in the middle of an intersection at this point. I just want to get out of there. So I dumped the clutch, got around the corner. As soon as it went around the corner, it quit again, but at least it was rolling and it had a little bit of momentum, and I was able to roll it off the side of the road. And that was the last I ever saw of any electricity in this truck. It finally ended up coming home on a flatbed. So now we're going to get into it and see what we can find out. So, I do have a couple of clues as to what's happening here. A couple of times I noticed the theft light would start flashing. And when the battery gets very, very low, that's what happens. It starts flashing. So there was some current moving around. But what I did notice when I went under the hood, I've got a under hood light on this truck. And it's literally attached right to the battery in the engine compartment. And it was on fine, bright, no problem there. So I believe what's going on is we've got whatever conductor is feeding the juice into the cab here that runs everything, the main ignition feed and the power that runs everything. We've got a bad connection there. So what we need to do is find out what's happening with that, and hopefully we'll have this thing fixed quick. What I did do while I was waiting for the hook to come was I unhooked both batteries, because at that point I didn't really know what was going on. I didn't know if I had a short somewhere and this thing was going to go up in a ball of flames. I mean, you don't know in a situation like that, right? So anyway, all we could do is have a go at it and see what we could find out. The first thing we're going to look at is the connections here. Now this is the main, this cable comes over here from this big lug, and this is the main feed into the power distribution center. From here it feeds into everything, like straight into the cab. It feeds all this stuff out here. So if there was a place for there to be a problem, that's a good place to look, right? Other things that go wrong with this crossover cable, this is the cable that connects the two batteries together. They're known to have some issues. We could also have a bad ground somewhere. But first thing we're going to do is check all the connections up here and then see what happens. And of course, the mechanics' worst fear is that you stick the battery cables on and the thing just starts up like it was running 10 minutes ago. And then you have no friggin' idea where to start, and you literally have to wait for the thing to crap out again before you can try and fix it. The only thing you can hope is that when it finally craps out, it craps out for good and it's completely dead, and it stays dead long enough for you to find the problem. Hopefully it's not an intermittent thing we've got. This connection here looks kind of ugly, and I'm not sure why I didn't clean that up. But anyway, what we're going to do is the other end of it is basically fused into the lead on that terminal. So we've got our ohm meter. We're going to check for continuity or check the actual resistance along this cable and see what we've got over here at this end. Look at that. 5 mega ohms. That, people, is no good. So yeah, I think we've got a bad connection here. Look at that. It's loose. Oh, boys and girls, I think we found our problem. It was that's an expensive lesson. Okay, so. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at all that. Is that rust under there? Or copper shield? I don't know. We're going to clean this all up and redo it, and we'll see, we'll recheck that resistance. Okay, so now, how are we going to get this cleaned up? It's in that plastic there, you know, like that. Oh, wait a minute, the plastic comes off, I think. Okay, there we go. Okay, now we can clean this up nicely. So you can see here we got piles of guck off of the bottom of this. It had that also. I was getting a lot of dust, you know, when this stuff is coated, and it kind of grows that, not really rust, but like you can see it there when I pull the sandpaper. It gets that like white fuzz on it, you know. Okay, that's good. We're gonna just give the back of this nut. The nut looks pretty clean, but we'll just give it a little there. And then we're gonna get some nice fresh copper shield on everything here, and we'll put her back together. And I'm pretty sure our problem will be solved. And then I'll show you another problem that I just noticed before we get too excited about solving all our problems here. Okay, so, oh dear. I think that goes on like that. Nope. No, it goes on like that. Just like that. Okay. We'll get this buttoned up, and then we'll recheck our resistance across that cable. Okay, so let's check our resistance across this thing now and see what we've got. That's really weird. Okay, you can see there, we've got, to the actual cable, we've got 0 resistance. That's good. To the stud here, we still have resistance. What if we got to the actual connector on the actual plate on the... Okay, we've got 0 to there. So the actual joint of the cable to the box is good. Just for some reason we're showing a little resistance onto the bolt there, but I think we're okay for now. You can see even to the nut here we've got 0.1 of an ohm. It's just to the actual stud. So that'll be on the bottom side of this. Oh, there we go. We got it now. Okay, we're good. Maybe I wasn't getting a good connection right on the end of it here. See, when I go right on the end, there must be some corrosion on the end of this. All right, we're all set now. So now I'm going to stick the battery cables back on it, and we'll see if it'll start. All right, look, we're in good shape. No more flashing theft light. Our hazard lights work again. But here's the real test. All right, we're all set. Problem solved. But we do have another problem. Our fan has unscrewed itself from the engine again. It keeps doing this, and I can't for the life of me figure out why. Anyway, we're going to screw it back on, except this time it's going to get a nice dose of Loctite on it. All right, we got our fan screwed back on. I'm not sure what's going on with this, because like when the engine's running, the fan has got a right-hand thread and the engine turns this way. So theoretically, when it's running, it tightens itself. The problem is it unscrews itself when you shut it off. Now, I don't know if there's some kind of, there should be some kind of freewheeling feature to this clutch. And it's kind of stiff both ways, right? So what's happening is when I turn the engine off, the engine stops and the fan keeps turning, and it eventually gets loose and unscrews itself. So this time we put some Loctite on it, and we made darn sure that we got it 100% tight to the point where it was slipping the belt. And then I gave the fan wrench a few raps with a hammer to try and make sure we've got it as tight as we possibly can have it. Short of that, I'm kind of thinking what my next move might be if it still does this. I'm going to actually maybe weld a nut to the side of weld a nut on the hub or the nut of the fan clutch, and actually put a grub screw in it. I mean, I don't hear of anybody else having this problem, so I do wonder if there's something wrong with this particular clutch. There is a modification you can do to these things that gets rid of this electronically controlled clutch, and you use parts from a Ford Power Stroke. Apparently, it sets a code in the computer for fan speed because it can't read the fan clutch anymore, but it doesn't put the engine light on. And for most people, it's adequate, right? Anyway, blah, blah, blah. What I'm going to do now is crawl underneath and make sure that the wires for the fan aren't damaged, because sometimes when the fan flies off, it chews up the wiring. That happened to me last time the fan flew off. Anyway, I'll be back out in a sec. Well, I'm under here and I can see the wire for the fan. It's fine. It's okay. So that's all good. What I do see underneath here is the actual harness for the fan wiring is hanging kind of free and loose. So I'm just going to put there's supposed to be a little clip that attaches it to the bottom of the shroud, which of course is long gone. But we have zip ties, so we'll make short work of that. What we're going to do now, just because, you can see here the lugs on the battery cables. You see how both sides are touching? Once they start touching like that, it becomes very difficult to try and squeeze these shut, you know? So what we're going to do is one by one take these apart, and you just run a Sawzall blade down through there. It gives you a little space, and you got to be really careful when you put them back on, not to over tighten them so you stretch them anymore, right? So we're going to go ahead and do that now. I'll show you on the first one that we do. So we get this off, we get the bolt out of it, we just grab a Sawzall blade and start going through it. I wouldn't recommend using this in the actual Sawzall, but, and then you see what we've done? We've given it a little clearance, right? The terminals are clean already, so we don't need to worry about that. Now we'll be able to tighten this thing up. And what I do, when I put them together like this, put a bolt through, and then I like to put a washer there. It just keeps this nut from digging into the terminal too far. And we'll tighten her up, and we should be okay. It's got to be turned a little bit. That cable was kind of taut. There you go. You can see now we've got it nice and tight, and it's tight on the actual post, not tight there. And there's one other cable that goes on here, I believe. Yeah, here it is here. We'll get that guy on. That's the ground for our winch. So we'll do the rest of them, and I'll be back. And this is this side done. We've still got a pretty good gap there. And there's, well, it might just be barely touching there, but that's okay. It the cable's good and tight on the battery post, so we should be okay. Now I'm going to just fire it up and double check that it's charging okay, and we should be all set. All right, well, it wasn't showing there. 12.12. Let's see what happens when we crank it up. In order to do that, I need the key. All right, now we have the key. Neutral. Oh, look at that. Perfect. Our fan is turning. Awesome. Let's check. What do we got for fuel pressure? 12. Yeah, that's right what it should be. Good. Okay, I think we're all set, folks. Okay, let's turn it off and see if the fan stays on. I gotta go my arm, take that on. Fan stayed on. Okay. So here's our next little dilemma. These things. I don't know how that lights that are made to be on a truck outside just... They're crap. Every single one that you buy is crap. They last about a year, and then somehow, even though they're sealed, water gets in them and they're finished. So I know how to solve this problem. We're going back to old-fashioned incandescent LEDs. I've had it. Now, what you can do with these, at least, you can get LED bulbs that pop into these rubber housings, and they last a lot better. So anyway, that's what I've got up on the back rack there. So we're going to get these installed in place of these and see if they last a little better. There we go. Sometimes you just can't beat the old school, right? Now, what we got to do, last thing we have to do is these lights are, you can install them however you want, but they're mostly designed as a right side up light, so you can see that the wires go in the bottom and there's no grommet or anything in there. So what we're going to do, water is going to get in there. So we're going to go ahead and drill a tiny little hole on each side in the bottom of the housing to let any water that goes in there come out. And we'll be all set. So just like that, we'll put a little 3/16 weep hole up through the bottom of each one. All right, that's another job done. We're just fixing stuff like crazy here today. And then I'm not ruling out somewhere down the line I could convert these and put the pop-in LED kind of seal beam replacements in there, like I did with these ones. Those are LED. Let's see, how do they look? Oh yeah, look at that. And I got them aimed down a little bit, so just in case they get left on or whatever, they won't blind whoever's driving behind me at night. They're mostly just to light up, you know, your trailer hitch if you're hooking up a trailer in the dark or something. Now let's get this mess cleaned up. Here's the last thing we're going to deal with. I've got a set of WeatherTechs in here, and I like them. But for some reason, this one here, is, you see it's curled up just a little bit. And it, look, it catches the clutch. Drives me crazy. So we're just gonna trim the very top of this off, and that should solve our problem. I guess maybe what I'm going to try first, I can see right here where it's been touching. We're going to try to use our old heat gun here. And, you know, maybe we can warm this up and kind of fold it down a little bit. I don't know, I figure it's worth a try before I cut it off. Because the whole idea of having a floor mat is to save your carpet. And if you start cutting it off, well, what's it going to do? looks like we might have got it moved a little bit there, didn't we? All we can do is try it, and if it seems to not be working, we'll cut it. I mean, this stuff will have somewhat of a memory, I think. So over time, it may just spring back to where it was, but I will try it. Now I just got to kind of hold it till it cools off. There. All right, let's go fit it in and see what happens. Well, seems okay for now. So I'll leave it like that. And if we find over time that it curls back up, it just doesn't fit too good in there. I think part of the problem is this here. Anyway, if we find over time that it starts acting up again, we'll just trim it back some. No problem. Well, that'll do it for that. We did end up getting a whole video out of it because we found a few more things that needed some attention on this truck. But I'm pretty sure we got everything sorted out. I'm pretty confident in it now. I hop in it and go anywhere. Yeah, what a day that was. Well, what are you going to do? Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. It got towed off the road, but hey, we were able to fix it. And lucky, it was something simple. Like we talked about at the beginning of the video. All I can hope is that over the long term that it might take 10 or 20 years, but this video makes enough ad revenue that to pay for the tow. Anyway, it is what it is. Oh, a shout out. Anybody around Uxbridge Township or up in the northern region of Durham, you ever need your car hooked, call up Andy's 24-hour towing. Good guys, they were there pronto. I have roadside assistance, but I kind of saved that for far away from home stuff, and thankfully I've never had to use it. I didn't want to be sitting up there for 3 hours waiting for them to get around to coming to get me, so I just called Andy's 24-hour towing, and they were there. From the time I phoned them till the time the truck was dropped here in the driveway was less than an hour. You can't beat service like that. That's local service, small business service. So with all that, I'm going to take off. I'd like to thank you, as always, for tuning into the Claremont Classic Garage. I hope you'll come back and see us again next time. And until then, I'm Kevin saying so long for now.